to stay at least 7 days or be prepared to stay 7 days. Then issues about why you seem to have difficulty accepting that things are not going as well as they should, and making reference to the antecedents of what happened in 2011, and finally the security situation and whether we've seen an improvement.
Okay, thank you very much. On the question of the polling units, in INEC, we have separated for the 2015 elections, just as we did for 2011, the period of accreditation from the period of voting. The period of accreditation is between 8 and 1 p.m. In fact, we've added 1 hour compared to 2011. 2011, it was 8 to 12. Now we said 8 to 1. And this period we have assigned for accreditation, we believe is more than sufficient using the card reader and our estimated time of registering a voter in each voting point. Now, you see, in 2011, even though we have the same number of polling units as we have today, we had to divide those large polling units into what we call voting points in order to reduce the number. There is no way and we have a polling unit in this country that has about 6,000 registered voters. There are many with 1,000 and more. So the objective of trying to create additional polling units is to ensure that the voting, instead of using an administrative mechanism of using voting points, we can have properly created polling units with relatively fair distribution of the number of registered voters. Well, it was turned into something else, and we thought that we should put it aside. But what it means is that we also have to now use what we used in 2011, which is use voting points. So we are using voting points. The average number of registered voters in a voting point is about 550 or 600. We ensured that no voting point has more than 700, but the average is about 650, 600 on average. So from our own estimation and the time it takes using the card reader, within that 5-hour window, every person who presents himself or herself at a polling unit will be accredited. And remember, again, it's not every registered person would actually turn up for voting on election day. But even if everybody turns up, then obviously we believe that we've made sufficient allowance
now, Prof,
for
before
that.
you take the next two questions, quickly, what was the rationale between for dividing the election process? One would have thought that the normal thing would be for people to be verified, accredited, and then for them to vote, and then go away and not have to come back. What was the reason why INEC decided to divide it into a two-step process?
Thank you very much. This is an explanation which we gave before the 2011 elections, and it was generally accepted. We said ours is a unique situation. Conventionally, on the day of election, a voter comes to the polling unit, he or she presents their card, they are accredited, and as they are accredited, they vote and they leave. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, and this has bedeviled all the elections that we conducted in this country, that system was exploited by our politicians. So first of all, they know when there is a lull in voting, and that is when thugs will come and snatch ballot boxes, and then they will get people also to be moving from one polling unit to another, accrediting voting. At the end of the day, somebody would have voted 10, 20 times. before you close voting, normally around 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. So the first question we asked ourselves, and this is one of the challenges that in 1993, the Electoral Commission then under Nwosu tried to address. How do you ensure that on election day people do not move around to be voting multiple times? How do you ensure that there is no lull in a polling unit such that thugs cannot come and steal the ballot box? So that is how we now separated accreditation from voting. If you do accreditation fast, invariably, unless there is a place where there is a serious challenge and accreditation did not start on time, it means you will be doing accreditation as well as voting virtually simultaneously in all the voting points. So you have eliminated the possibility of people moving around polling units. We've also, for the voting to take place, every accredited person must be on the queue. And when the last person on the queue has voted, voting has ended in that polling unit. So again, once it ends, then it's counted. So there is no possibility for people to commit fraudulent activities, which in 2007 were actually responsible for the general condemnation of the conduct of that election. We did it in 2011 and it worked successfully. Yes, many people had to stay longer period and it was not elite friendly because people do expenditure of time. But in 2011 it was like a festive occasion. People came, some brought chairs, and we said you can wait after you have voted so that you can see the result as it was tabulated and announced in your polling unit. So it's not conventional, but it has served our purpose. It has minimized electoral fraud, and we believe that it has also provided transparency in the electoral process.
So now the two questions from the niche and Bloomberg. So the two questions from...
Now the two questions, the gentleman journalist expressed his worries and concerns. All I can do is to reassure you. In 2011, just like now, we have promised Nigerians. No, let's look at the context. We promised Nigerians that the elections we would conduct as a commission will be credible elections. And we had time plans about when materials would arrive. So I gave assurances based on the assurances that I had about the delivery of election materials. And as you rightly observed, at that time we were working under a very, very tight time frame, certainly much tighter than what we are working with now. So I had assurances that by Thursday, all the result sheets that were produced abroad that were to be brought would be brought. And on the basis of those assurances, I gave assurances. And we deployed 14 aircrafts of the Air Force on the understanding that these things are coming late, and as soon as they come, they will be distributed all over the country in order to ensure that there was no problem. Unfortunately, and this is now general knowledge, the contractor disappointed us. The materials were not delivered. Should I say because I had promised Nigerians that we will do election, we will proceed with the elections, even though we knew that proceeding with the elections without result sheets we will not have elections that are credible? That was why, one of the most unfortunate decisions that I've ever had to take, and my commissioners also had to take, was to cancel that election on the day it was to start. But people are talking about cancellation. If we could cancel an election because we believed it wasn't going to be credible on the day that it was to start, what is the difficulty if we are convinced that we were not prepared about making it public to Nigerians? So when we said we were ready on the 14th, we believe we were ready. Now, many people are now going around saying you are not ready, you are not ready, you couldn't have done it.